days.
Yeah.
By way of introduction, let me tell you how we met David 3 years ago. David's been with us 3 years. Met David in Athens, Tennessee. He lived in Chattanooga, originally from Dothan, and we were up there at a service and singing. Packed place. And over to the left, I was going to the bathroom just trying to make my way through. We bumped into each other and stared at each other for just a moment. Like two animals that had never met before, and we had not. I'm going to be plain this morning, if that's all right with everybody.
Yeah.
What he didn't know was, for 6 months, we had a date set that on June the 1st, we would need a new lead singer. This was Memorial Day weekend. We still hadn't found anybody. We had a 6-month notice, and we had a service coming up in 5 days. God hadn't sent anybody yet. What I didn't know is that when I put it in God's hands once and for all, and threw my hands up and got out of the way, that I would attend that service, and he would too. Not by chance, but we would run into each other and speak. And the rest is what God has done. Amen? I'm not going to take a long time preaching this morning. Earl reminded me the other day, we get on each other when each one of us preach. We get on each other about being long-winded. And so far, Chris has the record for that. Thank God it's not me for being the most long-winded. But Earl reminded us the other day there's a fine line between a long sermon and a hostage situation. And he sent us a proverb. I couldn't find it in the Bible. Earl says it's there. Blessed is he whose message is short, for he shall be invited back. And so we want to mind the Lord this morning. He gets on me all the time. We'll get the man, and I'll say, man, that was a good service. He'll say, yes, that part we talked about 20 minutes too long. But anyway, we want to be a blessing to you this morning. Last year, we're more than halfway through 2017. In 2016, the Morning Quartet saw 28 people come to know the Lord through our services. And we said, that's a fair number, for a year's time. Well, it is when most people consider, and I have to put parentheses, singing ministry. That's a lot of folks. 28. So in 52 weeks, that's almost one every 2 weeks on average, whether they be young or old. But let me tell you something about that statistic. Is of those 28, 23 of them were members of the church. Not visitors, members. And I'll probably get a little louder, so if you have to take my volume down, that's fine. Or if y'all like it loud, I'll just preach loud. But I want to be a blessing to you this morning. I don't take it lightly that this pastor has asked me to stand in his pulpit. I do not take it lightly when a man, such as your pastor is, steps down from his pulpit and asks me to do that. I do not take that lightly. I respect the pulpit and the man of God, especially those that have done this a lot longer than I've done it. And that's not a slight or a shot at him being an older gentleman than I am. I have a lot of respect for those that have done it before I have and have tried to show me the way, especially when I was making mistakes as a young preacher going along. Those that would put their arms around me and say, now, Brother Stephen, this is the way. You probably should have done that. Especially when I knew I was in the wrong and I went to them and said, help me. They'd tell me the right way to have done that. But I want to be a blessing to you this morning as we travel around. And like I said, we'll see 7 states already that are on our schedule for this year. And 4 states this week: Georgia, Tennessee, North Carolina, and Virginia. You pray for us next Sunday night. Our road home will bring us home about 3 in the morning. We will be in Mount Airy, North Carolina that night. Martinsville, Virginia next Sunday morning. So that'll be a run home, especially to get home that late and be at work on Monday morning. So we ask for your prayers as we do things like that. But as we travel around, we find out that our churches are the same in a lot of ways in a lot of the places we go, in that people just need help. Amen. People just need help. People just need uplifting. We live in a world that if you turn the news on, you'll be discouraged by what they tell you on the news. We live in a world that down at the job, you're really not encouraged and uplifted as a Christian. Come on, brother. And I didn't say that to be, oh, woe is me, I'm a Christian, poor, poor, pitiful me. But we live in a society that it's not really popular and it's not really encouraging to be a Christian. You're not patted on the back and given an attaboy for everything you do for the Lord. That's just not the way the kingdom of God works anyway. But especially in 2017, the way we live. But because of that, because people are so discouraged from serving the Lord, it's not really popular. Some of the best Christians that I know have come out of situations where they had to stand alone. And yet God strengthened them through that, but it was not easy while they did that. The message this morning is a simple thought. I really struggled, and I've known for months and months and months. So it's not like I did not have time to prepare, but any of you in here that preach, or any of you that stand before a Sunday school class, or any of you in here that just even taught, maybe even some of you ladies teaching ladies' meetings or ladies' night, whatever, you study and you study. Maybe you've got a child Sunday school class, and you just can't come up with anything. Anybody in here been there? Hello? Been there. Even this pastor could probably tell you, no matter how much time he spends in the Word of God, excuse me, there'll be days where it just seems like we're trying to read off a blank wall. But I believe we've got the message this morning that will help us and encourage us. Jim, it's good to see you. I'm Paul. Jim West has been a good friend to me, a lot of other Christian and gospel music ministers in this area. Jim, just now saw you sitting there. But if you have your Bibles this morning, without any further going on, I'll give you the thought that the Lord's laid on our heart, and hopefully it'll be a help to you being homecoming. I know there may be some visitors here. Maybe you're members of another church, and I appreciate you being here. This group does. I know this pastor does. Maybe you're a member here or a former member here and just haven't been here in a while. Thank you for being here. But in John chapter number 6, in John 6, we read a story here where Jesus had gone over the Sea of Galilee, the Sea of Tiberias, and a bunch of people had followed him. It says in verse number 2, the great multitude followed him. They saw his miracles that he did on those that were diseased. In verse number 2, Jesus went up to the mountain and he sat with his disciples, and the Passover, the feast of the Jews, was nigh. And Jesus lifted up his eyes and saw a great company come to him. I don't know, sometimes I try to imagine what that must have been like. Here Jesus is with the disciples and turn around, and all these people have followed. 2 weeks ago we were in South Carolina, and there was 5 of us on the van. I believe it was the group, and I believe Tina had gone with us just a week or 2 ago. And I went in because it was we were singing on Sunday night, and what we had done is we did a few things at our churches that morning, and then had to leave to be there that night. As we were traveling through South Carolina around lunchtime, we stopped in at the Cracker Barrel. Amen. And I went in because it was in the middle of lunch to see what the wait was. Unfortunately, it was only about 10, 15 minutes. I went back out, told them what it was. They got off the bus and were headed in. And a young man coming by me in a big hurry was looking. He said, "How many people's on that bus?" I said, "Well, 5. He went, 5. They told me a bus had pulled in. We're trying to prepare for it. So that was us. There's only 5 of us today. So I imagine that's what the disciples were doing here when they turned around and saw that big bunch of people. They were trying to figure out how they were going to feed us on that bus, and they're looking around here. Verse number 5, Jesus lifted up his eyes, saw a great company, and he said to Philip, he said, "Where are we going to buy bread that these may eat? When shall we buy bread that these may eat?" And this he said, the Bible, verse number 6, to prove himself, for he himself knew what he would do. He already knew.
Yeah.
Philip said 200 penny worth of bread, that's about $30 worth in our day and time, is not enough that every one of them may take a little. One of the disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said unto him, "There is a lad here that has 5 barley loaves and 2 small fishes," a story that we've heard many, many times. What are they among so many? Jesus said, "Make the men sit down," and there was much grass in the place. The men sat down, number of about 5,000. That was the men, besides women and children. And we know the miracle that Jesus did there. Is there anybody in here that's never heard that story, what Jesus did with the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes? We know what he did there. I'm going to take and I'm going to focus back here in just a moment, not only that miracle, but some other things. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Father, thank you for what you've done, for your word this morning, for the spirit that we felt, for this place, for this homecoming. And Lord, even this small vessel, as I stand in this pulpit this morning, Lord, this thought that you've given to us, that you've given us this morning, help us, Lord, to use this to apply it. And Lord, by way of just maybe preaching an invitation message, maybe just going ahead into the invitation with a message this morning, Lord, that may be what you've got. Use this because somebody here this morning, Lord, needs what you've already laid on our heart. Lord, we need this one.
Yes.
If you don't take this thought, Lord, you don't move amongst us this morning, nothing will be done. It's not me, it's not anyone here, it is you. And we'll thank you, Lord, for what you've done. Move in this service. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. This thought is very, very simple. But I want to ask you this morning the question, what can God do with something so small?
Yeah.
We read this story. You see where Jesus was asking, what are we going to do here, Philip? Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said unto him, there's a lad here. There's just a little boy. Just a little boy. Now, we're never told how old that boy is. We're never told what he's doing there. We're never told his name. But yet, anybody that's ever heard this story knows where Jesus got the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes. In everyday language, basically, if you were to go down here to O'Charlie's or to Logan's or somewhere and get those rolls that we all love so much and get full on before our food even comes, that's basically what we have. We have some barley biscuits and 2 small fishes. David eats some of the sardines and oysters and stuff like that. We'll be on the road, and I just cringe every time we stop at a convenience store. But basically, this boy had gone out with a sack lunch. And I can't help but imagine that maybe if I could put it into everyday terms, the way we live today, maybe he got up and maybe it was summertime and school was out because he's following along here and a bunch of people were going on in. And we know that it was the Passover, so probably not a lot of people were at work. But I imagine he may have gone out and gone that morning and said, Mama, I think I'll go hear Jesus preach today. That sound reasonable enough? Can I read between the lines and just kind of tell this story the way I'd always thought it to be all the way growing up? And his mom said, well, if you're going to go hear the Lord preach today, you might as well take something to eat with you. It'll probably be a while. There's going to be a lot of people there, and I'll give you something to eat. And pack him a sack lunch to take with you. Now, the reason I brought up is we don't know how old this young man is, and we don't know this young man's name, and we don't know where he came from. It's because we know that God used him. May I say, in this day and age and in our churches, we have people sitting on pews that God could use. God could do something with you. Say, Brother Stephen, this is simple, this is easy. That's right, it's about time we got back to a lot of basics in our churches, because a lot of times we're not even doing anything simple and basic. We think it's got to be spectacular, and I love spectacular. We think the crowd must be flowing out the doors, and I love it when it flows out the doors. I don't want to go into, and this group don't want to go into meetings. We've traveled long, long ways away. We showed up one night in North Carolina for a Friday night service. Chris can tell you, there were 13 people there. It would discourage you in the flesh. I like the crowd to be full. I like the building to be full. I like for the music to be uplifting. I like for there to be good instruments. I like for there to be good preaching. And I like for things to go a certain way. But we need to realize that we've still got to serve the Lord, and we've got to take it simple and just be willing to be faithful when things don't exactly go the way we think they ought to go. This young man here, his name is never called. We have to be faithful when our name is not going to be called. I know people right now that if they show up in a meeting, if they're not asked to preach, or they're not asked to sing, or their name is not recognized, and they're not brought up, that they're not interested in being there. I don't have time for that. We also don't know where this young man came from. Maybe he didn't come from the best part of the neighborhood. May I say to you that it don't matter what part of the neighborhood you come from. God can still use you. I asked you the question this morning, what can God do with something so small? We think that it must be so uplifting and the lights must be in a certain way and everything's just got to go. It don't have to be that way. God can use the small. Why are you bringing that up in a homecoming service? Why do you bring that up when we know there's a great man of God pastoring this church in a great town, in a great building, with wonderful music program? That blessed my heart this morning. Love that song that the choir sang. Why are you bringing that up? Because there's people in this man's church. You've been holding on. You've been this close to just letting everything go. But you're holding back. Now, by way of invitation, this message is being brought this morning. But that little boy, maybe his mom packed him that lunch. And as he sat there, he began to notice around him that there was a need. Now, the Lord already knew what was going to happen. May I submit to you that the Lord already knows what He can do with you. He's just waiting on your 5 barley loaves and your 2 fishes.
Amen. That's good, brother.
They said, what are we going to do?
That's good.
What are we going to do? One of them said, there's a boy here, it's got a little lunch over here. Now let me ask you a question. How did the disciples know he had that lunch? He had to bring it forward. Here's what I believe happened in my mind. I was packing him a lunch. He's going to hear Jesus preach. He's enjoying the service. He's enjoyed the message. He's enjoyed being around all of God's people. And he saw that need. He heard the disciples and the conversation going on. Let me ask you something. This is good right here. This came to me while I was reading this and praying, and this was the verse God gave me. There was a multitude there, 5,000 men besides women and children. So if every man there, on average, there was a woman and a child, we were between 15,000 and 20,000 people. How would he know anything was needed if he had been in the back and far away? Can I submit to you, he had to be close enough to Jesus to know what was being said? He had to be close enough to the disciples and close enough to the Lord to know they needed something. So here's what I'm saying to you, brother.
Yes,
Brother Johnny, wasn't it? I believe he went up to one of the disciples, and I believe he pulled on the road. And he said, listen, I know everybody here's hungry. This ain't much. But if Jesus can do anything with it, he can have it.
That's it.
My granddaddy preached that verse to me and used that phrase when I was a little boy. I was saved at the age of 6. And my dad asked me, okay, what are you going to do now? I was baptized at the age of 7 into the church. All I've ever known, okay, so you know, he said I come from good stock. All I've ever known is Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night revival when it's time going every night, church. All I've ever known is this word being preached. All I've ever known is people that sold out and served the Lord and gave their life to Him. That's all I've ever known. Amen? That's all I've ever known. So my dad asked me when I was 7, okay, you saved? Yes, sir. You baptized? Yes, sir. What are you going to do with your life? I don't know. I'm 7. I'm going to go outside and play. I'm going to go outside with John David Dorsey and Jeremiah Quarles. And I'm going to go ride bicycles. Sounds good. Dad would ask me, what are you going to do with your life? One Sunday when I was 10, the pastor preached on surrender. And I went to the altar and I prayed. And I said, God, I want to be a good Christian. Dad asked me, he said, what'd you do? I said, I rededicated my life to the Lord. He said, did you? He said, you rededicated your life to the Lord? I'd heard that phrase used in church. I said, yes, sir, I did. He said, what did you dedicate it for? So what are you talking about? He said, look up the word dedicated and come back. I looked at dedicate, and dedicate was to yield, to sacrifice, to turn over control and power, to designate for a purpose.
Right.
He said, so did you rededicate? I said, no. He said, you've never dedicated your life to the Lord to tell Him what does He want you to do with your life. How can you rededicate? Have you ever surrendered to what He has for you? I'm 10. Again, I'm still going to ride bicycles and swim in the pool and enjoy church. But I remember being under conviction just the same as I was when I was lost. And I remember going to the altar when I was 10. And my granddad preached that verse. And I said what I believe that little boy would. But if Jesus can do something with it, He can have it.
Yes.
And God immediately spoke to my heart and He said, you love to sing. I want you to preach too. No. Absolutely not. Thank you very much. Sorry, you ever asked a question you didn't want the answer to? I got mine. 2 years I battled that. People that asked for a prayer request, I'd stand up, ask a prayer request for my lost grandfather. Wind up going into Psalms, they that sow in tears shall reap in joy. Tell the story how me and my sisters would lay, and my dad would lay in alders, and our bed, and our nightly devotions that our family had. We still have those. We need to. We'd have devotions, and we'd say prayer requests. We'd pray for Granddaddy Roberts. Drove Grandma Flo to church for 37 years. Drove her to church, dropped her off, picked her back up, never darkened the door itself. Got saved. Spent 4 years sick in bad health, faithful every time he could. Would walk in on a Sunday morning, sit down at 11 o'clock when the choir would sing. Sit there till about 11:35, 11:40, as long as his back and his health could stand it. Get up and go back home. But faithfully showed up as often as he could.
Amen.
But we would pray for him, and pray for him, and pray for him. And I would cry, and I would stand up at 10 and 11 and share that verse, and wind up going 15 or 20 minutes. Oh, I know my granddaddy is going to get saved. And somebody would come by me and say, boy, that's good preaching. Whoa, I'm not no preacher. But finally, I stopped running, and I surrendered, and I told the Lord, I'm not much. But if you can use me, you can have me. And that conviction, that burden was gone from the deal, because I knew then I was following what God had for my life. You don't have to preach to be a servant of the Lord. You don't have to stand up and sing. Not everybody can. A lot of people do that shouldn't. I can take you places this week where a lot do that shouldn't. But they're willing to do it anyway, and I appreciate that much. Just because you can, or just because you do, don't mean you should. But your service to the Lord, somebody will get blessed. I say that to be funny, but you know what I mean. You don't have to stand up in front of people. You don't have to teach a Sunday school class. You don't have to pastor a church or preach or travel. I've got a sister right now that's headed to India next spring. I've got a sister that's married to a pastor just down the road here in Ringgold. I've got another sister that's married to a pastor in Dallas, Georgia. And none of those young men were preachers. Well, one of them was, when my sister started dating them. But God, because my sisters had dedicated their life to God, God gave those young men who had dedicated their lives to God, gave them a home. And God's done that. I've got sisters that are in full-time service that will not stand behind a pulpit, that will not be standing up to sing, but they're in full-time service. You're a pastor's wife, you're a preacher's wife, you're a missionary's wife, you're in full-time service as much as he is. Amen. So you pray for your pastor, you uplift his entire family. But what are you saying, Stephen? I'm saying that this small, and yet it echoes throughout the course of time, what this young man did and how many people were blessed. Because that young man tugged on the coat maybe and said, this is not much. But if Jesus can do anything with it, he can have it. I ask you this morning, where you feel small, where you don't feel like nobody knows where you came from, and where nobody knows your name, and nobody knows what little talent you possess, but you do, and God knows. It would do you good this morning to get somewhere alone, maybe even this morning in this altar, and say, listen, I'm not much. I don't have much. I don't claim much. I'll never be much. But through God, he can do something. I'm reminded of two stories. I'm reminded of a story that I want to tell this. There was a pastor that, and I may tell it wrong, but there was a pastor that had gone into an area, the church needed help, the church needed uplifting. He went in full, just full bore, faithful to God. Just faithful to God. Church began to grow. He visited, he worked, and God was using that. Don't get me wrong. revival came and he invited everybody within, I don't know how far he could go. He probably visited every church, every house he could. And they packed the place out, and the church began to grow, and souls began being saved. They got a piano player, and they got an organ player, and they got a youth pastor, and got a song leader. I mean, just they had nothing when he got there, and it was growing, it was growing, it was growing. And he thought, man, God has blessed what I did, and I want everybody to look. He'd go around to some of the preachers' meetings and say, we got in there, we worked, we did our part, we did what we should have done, and look what I've built this church up the way I intended to build it up. And sure, God was blessing, and I have no doubt that God would have blessed his efforts. But one night he couldn't sleep, and he went over to the church, and it was along about midnight. And he had a little woman there, a little single mom, a widow woman, with a mentally challenged son that were in part of the church. And you know what they did? They took pride in making sure the church was clean. Every week. They vacuumed on Saturday night. He didn't know. They just said, he just knew who did it. He didn't know when. They were coming over at midnight and cleaning the church. And when he got there, he realized that was their part and saw them there. And he went in, he tried to slip in. He was going to surprise them. And he found that little widow woman and her mentally challenged son in the altar after they had cleaned and vacuumed the church, praying for their pastor, praying for their service, praying that God would continue to see souls saved. And God smote his heart. After he spoke with her, said, how long have you been doing that? She said, when you came here, God put it on my heart to be your prayer warrior. And he said God smote his heart to realize that while he had been going out there doing the talking, and doing the looking, and doing the witnessing, that woman's prayers had been his power and his uplifting, and where he was getting his energy from, that God was allowing him to see people because somebody he didn't even realize was in the altar in the wee hours of the morning on Saturday night praying. We had a young man in our church. As our instruments come, give us a verse of invitation as they come. We got a young man in our church, play basketball for our Christian school. And we had a revival back in 02, 03. And I remember sitting on the back of that bus on the way back from the basketball game, and he had had a particularly good night. I think he had had 35, 36 points. For those of you basketball people, he was tall, and he could dribble, and he could rebound, and he could block shots. And in today's day and age, the triple-double. He had, more than 10 points, more than 10 rebounds, more than 10 steals, or 10 assists, whatever. And he had had a particularly good night. On the way back, we were talking about how good the Lord was, and he was about 16, 17. And he began to cry. And he said, Stephen, do you know how many times I've surrendered God to preach? I said, you don't preach. He said, no, God never called me. But you know how many times I've told God I would if he wanted me to? No. He said, you know how many times I've surrendered to the mission field? I said, you're not a missionary. He said, I know, but you know how many times I told God I would go if he wanted me to? He said, I can't sing. I can't preach. I'm not a missionary. And he said, so here's what I've decided to do. You know when I mow the grass? You know when I sweep the floor? You know when I take out the garbage? You know when I just stand in the back of the choir? Yeah, I do. He said, I'm going to do all those things until God gives me something else to do. And if God never gives me anything else to do, that was my part all along. Broke my heart. To know that there are people that are being called that won't serve. She begins to play. This brother come and bring us an invitation. Let me ask you something. What do you have this morning that's so small in your eyes that God could use? You say, Stephen, you don't know what I've done. You don't know where I've been. Let me tell you something. Jesus does not care. Say that I can't serve in the way I used to. Maybe you had a position at one time. Maybe you did this. Maybe you've gotten yourself in a position where you can't be what you once were. I know a lot of men, a lot of women that's happened to. But maybe there's something you can do. I know men that, let's just get on down here where it ought to be, Brother Dale. They can't pastor anymore. They can't anymore. They once did. But somewhere, there's a job they still can do. Samson killed more Philistines in his death and after his mistake than he did before. He didn't do it the way he did it before. He had to do it in a humble capacity. But God still used him. Let's stand this morning. And I know it's been a little simple, it's been a little scattered, but it's the thought that I've been burdened with for a while. Our churches are full of folks that just need to give their life to Him. I'm saved, I'm here every week. But there's something you could be doing for this man of God that would uplift this church, this ministry, that would help him. While they sing, if there's anything you need to talk to the Lord about this morning, Pastor, you come ahead. I'll turn it over.